Okay. I don't think I can hear anybody. We'll just do it this way.
Welcome to WebEx.
Is this Russia?
Hello?
Can anybody hear us?
I can.
Okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going crazy here.
A little slow getting it.
Oh, there they go again, adding. Must be like 6 cameras added to me. Right.
All right, it's 1 o'clock. We're going to start the spring meeting of the Kansas State Board of Examiners in Optometry. We're going to have a call to order. We do have 4 members present, so we have a quorum, and the 5th member is online, so all of us are here. All of us are present. Do we have any guests today? Tut?
Yes, I'm a guest.
Say that again, Dr.
I'm Jeff Natchez.
Dr. Gordon, Dr. Natchez. Dr. Natchez. And did you say, who else did you say, Jan?
Hi, I'm a guest, Dr. Hartigan, Carrie Hartigan.
Thank you.
This is Todd Flesher.
And Todd Fleischer. So there's 4 in all, correct? Or is there someone I'm missing? Dr. Cheek, thank you. All right. Do we have any modifications to the agenda for today?
Other than what I added on the last week, it should be the final one.
Okay. Moving on, at this point, does anyone have any comments regarding the minutes from our last meeting and from 2 teleconferences? If there are no comments, does anyone want to make a motion to approve the minutes? And Jan, or excuse me, well, either one of you will know. Can we approve all 3 at once, or should we do them individually?
You could do them all together. It'd be cleaner to, I think, do them individually if there are any modifications that are needed.
Okay, so let's approve them individually. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion regarding the minutes of the meeting from January?
I'll move to approve the meeting minutes as presented for January 5th of this year.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Do we have a motion to accept the first teleconference meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the teleconference meeting.
Did you press your mic? Okay, thank you.
I'll second her motion.
Motion and second. Do we have a vote now? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes from the 7th of March teleconference meeting?
I'll make a motion to accept the second teleconference minutes on March 7th.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a stipulation and final agency order for Dr. Jeffrey Natchez. At this point, I'm going to recuse myself, and Dr. Burcher will take over the meeting.
I call this meeting to order in the matter of Dr. Jeffrey Natchez, Kansas Board Case 2022-02. This hearing is being held pursuant to the Kansas Administrative Procedures Act. Tim Resner is present, representing legal counsel for the Kansas State Board of Optometry, and Dr. Jeffrey Natchez is present as a respondent. Tim, would you like to introduce the investigator?
Yes, and the investigator in this matter was Dr. Lozada. And Dr. Burcher, would you like me to summarize the terms of the stipulation that has been provided to the board?
Yes.
So Dr. Natchez as respondent, and then as disciplinary counsel, we've reached an agreement on a stipulation and final agency order that's being presented to the board for approval. The facts are summarized as agreed between the parties, summarized in paragraph 5 of the proposed stipulation and final agency order, and they're summarized as follows. At all times relevant to the subject matter of the stipulation, Dr. Natchez did not hold a license to engage in the practice of optometry in the state of Kansas. Dr. Natchez submitted a reciprocity application to the board on July 29th of 2021 and represented therein that he's an independent contractor for an outfit known as 20/20 Vision Services, and it is based in Fenton, Michigan. Dr. Natchez also represented that he's currently licensed to engage in the practice of optometry in, I believe it's 10 states, Texas, Michigan, Arizona, Maryland, Minnesota, Ohio, Virginia, North Dakota, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina. On September 22nd of 2021, the board's executive officer informed Dr. Natchez that his presence was requested at the October 4th meeting in regard to the reciprocity application, and further asked clarifying questions of Dr. Natchez's reciprocity application. In response, Dr. Natchez asked the board's executive officer to put the application on hold for now. Dr. Natchez did not respond to the questions asked by the board's executive officer, and the parties have agreed that the reciprocity application as a result is incomplete. On November 19th of 2021, the board issued a summary order of denial relating to the reciprocity application, in part as an incomplete application. Dr. Natchez requested a hearing timely on the summary order, and therefore it did not go into effect. Dr. Natchez then later clarified to the board office that he wished for the reciprocity application to be withdrawn. And we also recite that for the purpose of the stipulation that Dr. Natchez confirms that he's not an applicant as defined under KSA 48-3406A1 and did not submit a complete application to the board for the purposes of KSA 48-3406A2. In regard to the resolution presented in the stipulation, it is a agreed denial of the reciprocity application, a neutral response in the event an inquiry is made of the board regarding Dr. Natchez's application. Dr. Natchez agreed to appear at today's meeting, which he's appeared virtually. And that's a summary of the proposed stipulation. And on that, I would ask the board to approve the stipulation and final agency order as presented.
Any questions for the legal counsel from the board? Any questions for the investigator from the board? Any questions for Dr. Natchez from the board? Do any board members wish to make a motion regarding the proposed stipulation and consent order?
This is Dr. Sparks. I will move that the board accepts the stipulation and consent order as presented.
I will second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign.
Okay.
Motion carries.
Yes, and we'll facilitate the signing. Dr. Vulture will sign the stipulation and final agency order. Dr. Natchez, you will receive a copy of the fully executed document in the mail. Any additional questions for the board at this time, Dr. Natchez?
Oh, thank you.
I don't mean to interrupt. Did the board hear that Dr. Sturdivant was here also?
Yes, we did.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
You're fine.
Thank you. Moving on to the next item will be applications. The first applicant to consider is Carrie Hartigan, OD. We'll open for discussion. Do any board members have questions for Dr. Hartigan? Oh, pardon me.
I have a question for Dr. Hartigan.
Certainly.
And maybe I missed it in the documentation. Dr. Hartigan, do you have a employment situation or practice opportunity in Kansas that you're pursuing? Just wondering where you will plan to practice.
Yes, I signed a contract with Ridgeview Eye Care in Olathe, Kansas. I will be starting July 1st.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any questions, Dr. Burcher? No?
No further questions. No.
And Jan, since I can't access my information, she did have her continuing education hours complete, correct? Okay. At this time, do we have a motion regarding the application of Dr. Hartigan?
This is Dawn Burcher. I will make a motion to accept the licensure by reciprocity for Carrie Hartigan.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion has been seconded. All in favor for reciprocity application by Dr. Hartigan, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Congratulations, Dr. Hartigan.
Thank you.
Next applicant is William Cheek, OD.
This is one that qualifies under the House Bill 2066. He is scheduled hopefully to take the exam in July, but he's already got an employment contract to move to Kansas. And I'll give you this much of it.
Thank you. Yeah, we're going old school now. That's okay. I looked at everything electronically. I just need to look at the information to remember who's who. I remember all of this. Okay. Does anyone have a question for Dr. Cheek? Any board members have a question?
Dr. Cheek, during your time at the VA hospital, was that a internship that you were filling, or were you there as an employee?
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
It was actually, it was postgraduate. It was for a residency. So I was an employee.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion regarding the reciprocity application of Dr. Cheek?
Dr. Lozado, because
Yes.
he needs to take the exam, this would be on a probationary.
So this would be a probationary license. Thank you for correcting me.
Correct.
All right, do we have a motion to accept a probationary license for Dr. Cheek?
I'm sorry, this is a reciprocal application? Oh, okay.
He doesn't qualify for reciprocal. He has to take the exam, but he's coming in under House Bill 2066. So it's a probationary license until he can take the exam.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not sure I'm understanding. I think if we're looking at House Bill 2066, I apologize, Dr. Lozada.
Please proceed.
One of the questions is the amount of time that he's been in the active practice of optometry in another state. There is under subsection D of that statute, which is KSA 483406. There can be a requirement to complete the additional testing training as deemed necessary by the board. And I suppose, is that how we're looking at this application? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding the application of Dr. Cheek? So at this time, I'll accept a motion regarding the probationary license for Dr. Cheek with the stipulation that he will take the examination in July. Do we have a motion for that?
I will make a motion to accept the application for Dr. William Cheeks with the contingency of passing the test in July.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. All in favor of issuing the license to Dr. Cheek, probationary license to Dr. Cheek, contingent on his passing of the examination in July, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next applicant is Dr. Dwayne Sturdivant.
You're here.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to ask that a motion be made that we go into executive session to discuss the application of Dr. Dwayne Sturdivant. The time is 1:23. We can convene in 10 minutes at 1:33. Do we have a motion for executive session?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion to enter executive session. All in favor, say aye.
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 Board members only. Opposed, say nay. All right, we will enter executive session once we're ready. Minutes.
Is this the Jean Murray? this. So Jan Murray is the one that says, I feel about that. So that's what I'm saying. So what kind of is anyway, maybe maybe she's in our, we went around, stand up. So I think see 10 years, she's been on. Ooh. Oh. So what was that? Okay, so the two, eight, and who was that? Vulture or whatever. She's up there sitting there somewhere. Is there any other? Sacrifice them. Basically,
Okay, well, apologies for coming back into live session a little bit late. There were a little bit of technical difficulties. At this time, I'll accept a motion to go back into executive session from 1:35 to 1:45. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Board will go into executive session from 1:35 to 1:45.
Is there difficulties again? Are we back in session or did we get cut off? Hmm.
They're in executive session right now and they'll return shortly.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, we're in executive session. It'll be about another 10 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Board is back in session. At this time, I'll take a motion to extend executive session until 2 PM. Do we have a motion?
I move to extend executive session till 2 PM.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Board will go back into executive session until 2 PM.
Are we having difficulties again?
They just extended the executive session.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Hi, the board's back in executive session, so we'll just, everyone will be back at 2 o'clock.
Okay, the board is back in executive session. I'm sorry, we're back in general session. We are going to ask to go back into a continuation of executive session. This time, we would like to have Dr. Sturdivant join us. Do we vote on this? Okay. Do we have a motion to extend executive session until 2:10? 2:13.
I also move.
Second? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. 2:13.
What more do they want? Just had
All right, the board is back in session. It is 2:55. Next item on the agenda is report of the president. First item is election of board officers. Since this is Dr. Durst's first April meeting, every April we elect board officers. It's in our either statutes or rules and regulations. So statute. So at this time, it's open for discussion regarding the positions that we currently have as board members.
I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just simply putting this out there for discussion. My tenure with this board is reaching its end. I will become ineligible to serve on this board after the board examinations this summer. And so whether or not to continue with me as Secretary Treasurer, I think is a good question.
Certainly.
Jan, if that simplifies your life, I'm completely fine with staying on. I wanted to make sure that whatever was best for the board is the way that we did it.
Is there any other discussion? Dr. Deanda can hear us, correct, Jan? Okay. We still have a quorum. Do we have a motion regarding the current positions on the board?
I will make a motion to maintain the current positions of the board until our next meeting.
Do you want to clarify which meeting you're speaking of? Because it's possible we could have an interim meeting in between now and when the examinations are completed in July.
I will make a motion to maintain the positions of the board members as current until the July 2022 meeting.
I might raise an issue with that because it is in statute. I'm not sure that the board can waive the requirement. It's in every April election. It might make sense. I mean, if Dr. Sparks would continue to serve in her position and then she rolls off the board, I would think at that time you're replacing a vacant officer position. I mean, at least something, Dr. Burcher, to think about. I'm not aware, Jan, you may know different, but if there's ever been, you know, a waiver of the positions or the election requirement before, but the statute's pretty clear that every April the election is to take place. Okay.
So perhaps the better motion would be to maintain positions as they currently are and not put a time limit.
That's what I did the first time.
Okay. I apologize, I misunderstood then.
Or do we just have an election to elect?
We do it by motion generally.
Mhm. Yeah, to reelect to the same positions, I'm sorry, Dr. Birch, I didn't understand your motion. I thought it was something else.
So I'll make a motion again to maintain the current board positions.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, motion passes. Next item on the agenda is mask guidance update. Before we go into that, I will make a comment, and that is that probably like most of you, I've received emails, phone calls, text messages on the subject. From licensees. All of my comments involve licensees, none involve the public. The comments from the licensees have been inquiries as to staying up to date. Some have asked for faster action. One, in my opinion, was inappropriate. It's the only word I can come up with this time. I would just like to remind everyone involved to be respectful of each other. There was one other email that I received that did seem to provide more information than others. And this was a licensee who asked if the board would consider that staff and licensees continue to follow the guidelines and that the offices have signs saying that mask wearing was strongly encouraged. And I told this, or I responded to this person that I would bring it up at the meeting. That's the only thing I wanted to mention in these opening comments, and it's open to discussion.
Dr. Lozado, I did forward you 2 emails that I received today from patients, and I do have a voicemail if you'd like to hear it from another patient that called and left a message.
Was that, is the person's, can we listen to that in the meeting if their name is mentioned?
Without knowing the nature of the message, I don't know.
Jan, is the caller who left the voicemail, are they voicing a concern similar to these 2 emails that you forwarded to us earlier today?
This one, he mentioned that he had hearing aids and masks make it difficult for him to actually wear the mask. And so he was requesting that we do away with the mask mandate for patients.
We have the general idea, so thank you. Is Dr. Deonda back?
She had a phone meeting. She said that she'd be back around 4, I think. Hang on, let me.
4 o'clock, okay. Dr. Durst, Dr. Bircher? 3:34. Would you like to table this until Dr. Deonda's back and we just move along?
That would be fine.
Okay, we're going to table this item and move on so that Dr. Deonda can participate. Next up, previous investigations update. You'll have to forgive me, I have no access to my notes. Jan, did you receive an update from your contact at Board of Healing Arts regarding?
I did not. They had a board meeting on Friday and she was going to try and get it to me, but it was a crazy week for her last week, so she did not get it to me in time.
Okay, so at this time, I have no updates regarding previous investigations. Next topic is a ring binder for new board members. In the past, when I joined the board, I got a ring binder that had all kinds of fundamental information. Is that still given to the new board members?
Most of that is now posted online on the board member only website. There is a page for board member, I forget how I phrased it, but there is a page. I did give everybody a copy of the hard copy of the rules and regs.
Okay.
Jan, it's on the board member page as the board member handbook.
So we have two board members who have joined most recently. Would it be easier for you if you had a physical ring binder that you could add information to and review as opposed to online?
I have not previewed any of the information in the handout, so I don't know if I can answer you
Okay.
this time.
Dr. Durst, would a hard copy or a paper copy be easier for you?
I think at the time of, joining the board, it probably would until you learn to navigate everything. But at this point, I've already gone through most of that.
Okay. Do we want to give new board members hard copies, or do we want to keep it as is?
I like the idea of instructing new board members on how to organize new things coming in. So for example, investigations and how they will be presented and who you can contact and who you cannot contact. I think that would be helpful in a hard bound ring binder.
All right, and going on with that, our legal counsel and I are working on a document that has that. It has a brief explanation of coma, how to make a motion, pass a motion, executive session, etc. So the idea is that when that document is done and reviewed, it's going to be short, so we could probably either give you a hard copy or put it on the website, but then we will have it in the ring binder for new members. So it sounds like going to a ring binder for a new member. It doesn't have to be the ones in the past that had, my ring binder had lots and lots of information. I think we can edit that. Okay, conduct and security agreement. Again, I don't have my notes, but this was going to be a paragraph that we were going to add to the examination regarding conduct during the board examination. And the security was in regards to sharing of information before, during, or after the examination. I did receive some information from the national boards, and then from that wrote a tentative document. This is something that Mr. Reisner and I are working on. Do you think that we could have this done prior to the next round of examinations so that we could update the examination form?
Yes, I would think so.
Okay. Is this something that all of the board members should review prior to it being added?
Well, yes,
Okay.
unless the desire would be to delegate that responsibility to an individual member.
So based on what happened earlier today, it looks like we're going to have a teleconference at some time. And we can present it at that time. The next item is a confidentiality agreement. Currently, board members do not have NDAs that are signed. That's not been historically something that's been done. And that was something that was suggested probably at an Arbo meeting. Is that something that you are working on or something that I am working on?
I believe it's something that I had assumed responsibility for, and I have not gone anywhere with it as of yet.
Okay. So that's going to be tabled till June? Okay. So at June, we will discuss that. Board member roles, originally that was going to be under my section, but we're going to have legal counsel discuss that. Mr. Resner and I had a phone conversation, and he raised an excellent point that I had missed. So we're going to speak about that later. That brings us to an executive session. At this time, I would like to ask to have a motion to go into executive session with what's called personnel exemption. And that would be the 4 board members that are present only. Purpose would be to discuss personnel. Do I have a motion? It's 3:15 to 3:25. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to go into executive session to discuss
Personnel.
personnel.
I'll second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Board is in executive session until 3:25. All right, the board is back in session. We just completed executive session. No decisions were made during the session. At this point, I just wanted to ask Ms. Murray a couple of questions. Ms. Murray, what is your anticipated year of retirement? Well, no, I'm just curious. Anticipated.
I'm eligible for retirement February 1st, 2025.
2025.
And I will probably stay on until at least after the exam that year.
Okay. The board would like to ask that you include in the budget for the appropriate year one full-time equivalent for a part of that year for someone who can take your position, and that way they can shadow you and get an idea as to all the different things that occur. The other thing that the board would like to ask is if you could write some sort of a manual of all of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis.
I've been working on that.
Oh,
And I was going to discuss in June, when we have the July meeting, I'll be working on, the next budget year will be 24 and 25, which that'll be fiscal year 25 when this happens, and so it will be putting it in the next upcoming budget that I will.
all right. So this is,
Bring it up in July at the meeting.
so this is the time to talk about it. So it would be one full-time equivalent to be requested, one additional full-time equivalent.
When I started, I started in April, and I worked with Penny for 6 months. She got me through the renewals, the exam, and the budget before she left. Because those are the things that only occur like once a year type thing, and you have to be right there or you don't.
Right, right. That sounds like a good time frame. That sounds like a good template for us to use.
But that was my plan when I was working on the 25 budget, was to include for somebody else to.
Well, great minds think alike, right? All right. Nothing further on that item. Next is rules and regulations discussion. There were 3 rules and regulations that I wanted to specifically discuss, and they were locked away securely in my computer right now. So I don't have anything to discuss because I don't have access to those notes. I do want to say that we were not going to finish them today. We were going to work on this portion, and then there was another section that Mr. Resner and I are working on. We were looking more towards June, so what we could aim for is discussing the 3 regulations plus the section that you and I worked on. I do remember that one of the sections was about the number of COPE CE hours. Let me make a note, please. The president of the KOA, Dr. McPeak, sent a letter to me stating the number of states in the country that have COPE requirements. Again, I do not have access to the letter. I believe his suggestion was not to have COPE required CE hours, and the board tentatively had proposed 24 hours. And so out of curiosity, I looked at our Arbo report for continuing education to see just how many COPE-approved hours I had per year, because I wasn't paying attention. I just sign up for CE classes that are interesting to me. And I think the year that I had the smallest number of COPE-approved CE hours was 22 out of 24. So even though the state has not had a requirement for COPE hours, it's quite easy to get them if you're trying to get through the guidelines that we currently have. For example, the number of therapeutic hours, you limit how many hours are online, limit practice management courses. You end up getting a significant number of COPE CE hours. I would propose at this time, but we will discuss in June, rather than 24 out of 24 COPE hours, 20 out of 24 to be COPE hours. But once again, we'll discuss this in June more thoroughly. Any further discussion? Okay, since we have Dr. Deonda back with us on the meeting. Oh, excuse me.
Dr. Weisser is now on the meeting also.
Dr. Weisser.
It's popped up.
Oh, Dr. Weisser is back. Since she might go back into clinic, let's go to the reinstatement of Dr. Weisser first. Dr. Weisser, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so we are considering the reinstatement of your license. Are you currently in Wisconsin?
Yes.
And how did your license, well, what happened with your license? Did you simply fail to renew? Did you forget?
No, so I had relocated up to Wisconsin about 5 years ago. And I didn't have specific plans to come back at the time, so my license lapsed at that point. And now I have an opportunity to come back, and so I'd like for my license to be reinstated.
Thank you, Dr. Weisser. I'll open it up for discussion.
Dr. Weisser, this is Dr. Durst, and just a quick question. What is your practice opportunity that you're pursuing, and will you be relocating back to Kansas?
Yes, so my job offer is at in the Kansas City area at KU Medical Center. So I'll be joining the department there.
Thank you.
Dr. Burcher, any further questions?
None at this time.
Dr. Sparks?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Is there a motion regarding the reinstatement of the license of Dr. Jamie Weisser?
Jan, are we in need of any supporting documentation, anything that isn't complete regarding a potential reinstatement?
I'm still waiting on the background check, and then the other thing is the payment of the reinstatement fee and the back license fees. So, and then there's the question of, do you want to make her retake the law exam, or is she good to go without taking the law exam?
How many years has the license been inactive?
Since 2019, 3 years.
Has there been any substantive changes to the optometry law in the last 3 years? I don't believe so.
None at all.
Okay.
Nothing that would affect her,
Okay.
just the board.
So I will move to accept the reinstatement of Dr. Weisser pending payment of any fees that are due, and subject to her completing any further information that's required in order to fulfill a reinstatement of licensure.
Motion made. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of reinstatement of Dr. Weisser with the conditions stated, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Weisser.
Thank you all.
They're having a hard time hearing you.
All right, next item up for discussion is mask guidance update. We were waiting for Dr. Deonda to be available so that all 5 of us could discuss. Just a brief recap, Dr. Deonda. You can hear me, correct?
Yes, I can.
Great. So just a brief update. All of us have received text messages, phone calls, emails from licensees, not the general public as well, but my comments are aimed at the licensees. One licensee in particular asked a question of if the board would consider staff and licensees maintaining source control measures, including masking, but allowing it to be optional for patients and posting a sign strongly recommended on the door. And I told this individual that I would bring that up at the meeting. That is simply a statement that I'm repeating. The topic is now open for discussion. And I believe Dr. Vulture had just made a comment. Had you? Had someone just made a comment before we decided to wait for Dr. Deonda? I don't remember. I just want Dr. Deonda to have all the information.
I mentioned the voicemail that I received from a patient that said that wearing masks was difficult because he had hearing aids and other issues, and he would like us to not make it mandatory that patients wear a mask.
Was there anything else to bring Dr. Deonda up to speed on?
I would simply make a statement regarding the CDC guidance. As I looked it up this morning before I got in the car to come up here, the CDC guidance for healthcare providers remains unchanged. As of this morning, the February 2, 2022 information is what's still posted on their website.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's a tough situation, right? So the community rates have decreased. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the community rates have decreased, but we can see now on the East Coast, the rates are starting to go back up again. So I don't know what your guys' discussion have been that, in your practice, you definitely have more understanding, and I understand that the patients, it's complex to keep it on. But it's likely coming back. So I don't know how others in the room, what you guys recommend from what you're seeing.
Just for my own 2 cents worth on the issue, I think that there is a significantly greater risk for transmission in the confines of an optometric examination room. From a proximity standpoint for how close we get to our patients from behind the slit lamp. And again, this is just my 2 cents worth on the situation as I have discovered over the course of the last 2 years, and not being ill even once, when on average for the first 25 years of my professional career, usually a couple, 3 times a year. And I think it's just, again, simple proximity to patient. However, I also understand that there are challenges associated with patients who have difficulties with hearing, just from the simple trying to not fog the equipment as we're trying to do our work. So I'm not saying there's a perfect answer here. That's just my 2 cents worth on it.
So I would say that in my practice, it's not really an issue. The patients do wear their masks. They do social distance. They do understand what we're trying to do. We still have patients who arrive, they don't have a mask. One is provided for them. We continue to limit how many family members can come because it's very, very easy for 2 back-to-back patients to show up who are children, and we have 10 people there from those 2 families. That has not been a problem. I would, one other comment is that from what I understand, eye doctors in particular are 3rd highest for infections. I believe the highest are the ER doctors who are treating patients who have coronavirus and have not tested positive yet. The second group is dentists, and the third group is eye doctors. So optometric practices are sources of infection, or let me rephrase that. They can be sources of infection if we're not careful. So the doctor who suggested that the staff continued to mask as well as the licensees and then leave it optional for patients, that is a step that can be taken, but the question is when? Is this a good time or not? The United States typically has about a 6-week time lapse with the infection rates in England. And it's my understanding that towards the end of April will be the 6-week mark of the latest increase in England and Europe. So I think going forward, that's a good idea. The question I'll pose to the board is this a good idea now?
Yeah, I would just say that East Coast is starting to reinstate their mask mandates. So they're starting to get more there. So I feel like it's not quite time yet, at least from my perspective, to wait to see what the Omicron BA2 variant does in the US. As you said, it's in the next few weeks that we'll know.
You're correct. I have relatives who live on the East Coast, and they informed me yesterday that source control measures were going to start again today.
That's right.
Dr. Durst, any discussion?
You know, I really don't have much to add except for we do have increasing numbers of patients coming in that are maskless. If they are unmasked, we do provide them with a mask, and of course all our staff is still masked, but we are getting more and more pushback from those patients. And staff-wise, of course, I've got staff that are immunocompromised, who are really concerned as well if patients are coming in and are not required to wear a mask. You know, our duty is to protect our patients, but also to protect our staff members. Those are really the only points I wanted to make.
That's a very good point. Thank you. Dr. Vulture, do you have anything else to add?
I do see in the future where we would allow patients to have an option to wear a mask. I think it's early to make that decision. And I think it's harder to go backwards in the future. So for example, if we take those mandates away now and have to reinstate them later, to me, it seems easier to keep everything very consistent. So I would not recommend changes at this time.
Okay.
Dr. Lozado, Gordon is on the call, and he specifically wanted to, I'm not sure if he does have any comments to make, but I thought maybe you could open it up to the public for comments.
We could, we'll give him 3 minutes to make a comment. Do you have a timer that you can use, Jan? Thank you. Go ahead and ask him if he would like to make a comment.
Hey, Gordon, did you want to make any comments about the mask mandate?
Sure, I'd like to. No, and what I guess would like to reiterate with one of the comments there is that we're getting significantly more and more pushback from our patients. Everywhere they go in most places in the community, whether it be restaurants or sporting events or out in public, there are fewer and fewer people wearing masks in the Wichita and surrounding communities. There are even more and more medical facilities that are not requiring masks. Specifically, one of the corneal surgeons that we refer patients to are not requiring masks, so they go to that facility, are not required to wear masks, then come back to us for their follow-up care and their questioning as to why. We've had a long-term family of 5 individuals, 3 young kids that are unable to wear masks. They said if they are not allowed to come into our practice without wearing masks, they're going to have to leave. So there's a long-term family of 5 that are gone. Over the course of the last couple of weeks, we've had at least 5, probably closer to 10 other patients that are just beyond frustrated that a independently owned practice like ours is still requiring them to wear masks. And we said it's the requirement of the board that we participate under that is telling us that they have to wear masks. They've literally walked out. And the question that I guess that I pose to the board members is, when those patients are leaving our practice, what's the likelihood that they'll find another optometric practice in our community that they'll go to that they will not be required to wear a mask? So this mask, in a sense, is putting us at a financial disadvantage to the practices that aren't fully complying with the order. And from my understanding, there's not really been any kind of follow through with respect to any penalties, fines, procedures in that situation. So we're kind of in a catch-22. Are we going to continue to financially lose out on the benefits of these patients, or are we going to go with, well, we're not going to have those difficult conversations with patients to say, either let me be seen without a mask or I'm leaving. So it's a difficult situation. It's becoming more and more commonplace. We've literally gone through case after cases of masks handing out because 85% of the patients coming into our office do not have masks of their own.
Sir, thank you for your comments. The 3 minutes are up. Listening to what you were saying, you began by discussing restaurants and sporting events not requiring masks. Those are not healthcare facilities. The guidelines that we are discussing are about healthcare facilities. Regarding medical facilities that are dropping their requirements, including the cornea practice that you mentioned, you asked why. We cannot answer that question. That would be a question for them. I do find it interesting that you mentioned patients leaving to go to another practice and that how it is a disadvantage to yours. You are correct. That is a disadvantage to you. And you asked about follow-through regarding what happens to these practices. There is no follow-through because there are no complaints that we have received. We invite anybody who wishes to file a complaint with the state board regarding practices that are not following this or any other rule or regulation. However, without information, the board cannot act, and the board does not act. So if all of the practices are following the guidelines, it is not a problem. Unfortunately, we are aware, we have heard rumors of such things, but nobody has come forward. So once they do, the board will take appropriate action. Is there any other discussion from the board members? So is there a motion?
Do you want to do a motion to retain the current requirements, but review them again at following meetings to see what additional data we have then?
That could be your motion, certainly.
Okay, that's my motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion seconded. All in favor, vote, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. So we will discuss again at the next meeting. There is a path forward that we can see where it would be staff only who would need to maintain source control measures, but at this time, we're going to delay that. So that's the end of my presentation. Next is the report of the Vice President.
I just wanted the other board members to be aware, I will be requesting exam questions within the next month for you to submit to Jan. That will be for the 2022 examination.
How many questions would you like for us to submit?
5.
5 questions.
And Dr. Burcher, is this for the written portion of the exam?
Correct.
And is there a deadline when you would like them?
I think Jan will forward you the appropriate information.
Okay, thank you.
That is all from me.
I have a question, Dr. Burcher. There was some discussion about including court decisions that the board had been involved in on posting them on the website. Could you please give us an update on that?
It has occurred, no?
I think you were going to look at Board of Healing Hearts and let me know which ones I should pull over and put on ours that involve optometrists or.
So I think we have a question to the Board of Healing Arts on how we can better identify these. An email was sent. I'll have to go through my emails and verify.
Okay, thank you. So status is still pending. Report from the Secretary Treasurer.
I have no report for this meeting.
Thank you. Do you have a report next meeting? Thank you. Report of the member at large.
I have nothing to report as well.
Dr. DeAnda, report of the of the public member?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Report of legal counsel?
Yes, members of the board, Dr. Lozada has asked me to address specifically KSA 65-1505D, which relates to a reciprocity application. And one of the criteria that exists in subsection D relates to the amount of time that a licensee has been in the active practice of optometry in another state. And that term, the issue has come up before the board, but the term is not defined within the optometry law, within the statutes or regulations that the board has. And so in looking at what specifically the Board of Healing Arts has done, they've provided a definition of the term active practice through KAR 100-8-3. And a couple of the key points I think to look at there, and from a larger perspective, the question would be whether or not this board wants to define what the term active practice might mean, provide some sort of guidance through the regulatory process. And what the Board of Healing Arts has done is, in 100-8-3, is require an applicant to submit evidence showing the engagement in direct patient care during their time period. It's 12 months, which for optometrists, it's either 3 months, or if it's a reciprocity under House Bill 2066, it's 2 years. 3 years and 2 years, I hope I said that correctly. The regulation then goes on to define direct patient care of at least 1 full day per week, or its equivalent for 50 weeks, or a total of 400 hours. There then are some discretionary items which relate to, they say, a totality of the circumstances analysis, including situations where there may be military service or family leave that's needed to be taken would be an exception, or that the board could take into account. And then there are some hard exceptions, which would be exclusions from the time period of active practice, including time spent in a training program, residency, fellowship, employment, research activities that wouldn't involve patient care, those sort of things. And so as this board is continuing to work on regulations, that's something that I would suggest that you all look at. It's been a question that's come up, and if you all want to consider that, we can certainly take it up and discuss what sort of criteria that would be appropriate for Kansas licensees.
So in part of our conversations that I had with Mr. Resner, we decided that we definitely needed to have some sort of definition for active practice. My opinion is that if there is already a definition being used in the state, that for consistency, we follow it, we use it as a template. I like very much the wording that the Board of Healing Arts uses. So the question would be how to adapt it for our board. Any other thoughts? What do you think the next best step would be, to have a board member work with you on trimming it down to something that's more appropriate for the Board of Optometry?
Yes, I think that makes a lot of sense, to adapt it to, if there are differences between the disciplines, what does that look like? I think that makes a lot of sense.
Tim, can you tell us previously what is accepted as proof that they've been in clinical care? A W-2, a colleague writing a statement?
As far as the Board of Healing Arts is concerned, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they've required in the past. That'd be a good thing to look into, I think, as far as what they have asked for. And it may be borne out on their application. I'm not certain.
So I would suggest, if we have a volunteer to,
I'll be happy to work with him on that one.
thank you, Dr. Burcher. Please continue.
And that's all I had as far as my report is concerned.
All right. I thought you were going to talk about board member roles. What I can do, again, because I don't have my computer. Did you want to speak on that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you did ask me to speak to it. And primarily it was focused on any complaints and investigations which might ensue.
That's correct.
And one thought, I think, was whether or not it would be more appropriate to assign certain types of complaints to the public member. And I think generally speaking, if it depends on the subject matter, especially if it involves technical issues that are better served to have a practicing member address. That would be my suggestion, is to ensure that those types of complaints do make their way to a practitioner so that they can be adequately investigated. The other option would be to, and some other boards have done this, but to retain an expert in the area who could serve as a sort of an independent contractor investigator. I don't know if you want to discuss, maybe open it up to discuss what the best approach would be, but generally that was my suggestion as far as how, when complaints come in, how they're assigned, focus on the subject matter and who may be best served to properly investigate.
I will add one other thing that we had in our conversation. Originally, when responsibilities of the board members were discussed, I specifically suggested that the public member, the executive officer, and the legal counsel would be the recipients, the first recipients of a complaint, not a board member, not a licensed board member. And the idea was to remove as much possible impression of bias as possible. In other words, we can regulate ourselves, is what I was trying to propose. Mr. Resner brought up an amazing point that I hadn't thought about. That meant that the public member would not be part of a hearing, ever, because the public member would always be a person who had knowledge. And so then the question becomes, what allows the board to be more neutral? To have the initial complaint go to the public member, or to have the public member present at hearings? The answer is the second one. So we currently have a system where, or at least let me rephrase that, the answer appears to be the second one. I'll leave it open for discussion. So we currently have a system where we rotate who gets an investigation assigned to them. We try to do it geographically, since that makes sense. But as it turns out, the current system that we have for investigations seems to be pretty good, because it is random. Obviously, if there's a conflict of interest, we cannot, that member has to recuse themselves. So I'll bring that up to discussion if we just want to leave that part of board member roles as it currently is, where investigations are assigned randomly, and we will take that out from board member roles, and then we can vote on that in June if we approve of board member roles, because by June I'll be able to access my notes. Is there any discussion?
At some point in the future, I will put this out for everyone's consideration. I think it would be good to have a pool of people who have experience on this board who could serve as investigators after their service to the board is complete, that they would have a knowledge base of how these sorts of things are conducted, and would therefore reduce the difficulties associated with a small board making a decision regarding any particular circumstance that arises. Currently, we have one former member of the board who is involved in investigations. And when my service is complete, I've also indicated that I would be willing to serve in that capacity as well. But I think it would be a good thing for this board to consider building that as a way to help to alleviate some of the issues surrounding the small boards making a decision.
I think that's an excellent point. One of the advantages of doing that is that former board members have been involved in multiple investigations, and they can advise current board members how to go about it and not just do the investigation for them, but lead them through the process. So that's a very good point. So I'll make that modification. I'll present that to Ms. Murray, and then we can vote on it at the June meeting. Anything else from legal counsel?
No, sir.
So I'm going to suggest a 10-minute break before we begin the report of the executive officer. Time is 4:10. We'll reconvene at 4:20. Thank you. All right, the board is back in regular session. Next item on the agenda is a report of the executive officer. I'll turn it over to Ms. Murray.
Okay, first up are trade names. First one is for Jamie Speth, and she's wanting mobile eyes optometry. It's to work at various nursing homes and assisted livings. And I'm thinking she's in the Wichita area, but I might be wrong.
Mr. Resner, is there a question on how this application was completed and is it filed correctly?
Sorry, I just lost the application on my computer. But in my notes on this particular application, Jane, I don't know if you have the hard copy.
Just have electronic.
Okay.
I believe this is one that was incorporated incorrectly and it was going to be corrected at a later date.
Yes, and there's also correct. She indicated there would be an amendment, which with respect to any application that's come through in that manner, this board has asked for the correction to be made before approval is granted. But I seem to recall that there's also an issue about the location.
Right. I don't believe that the location was listed. And we also have additional questions regarding if this is, how this practice is going to operate. So at this time, it doesn't appear that we can move forward. Is that correct?
Right. I think it'd be appropriate to have a board member review the various issues.
Okay. So on the trade name Mobilize Optometry, the board cannot vote on the approval of the trade name at this time because the incorporation needs to be corrected prior to the board reviewing the application.
Will you send her a letter? Let her know what she needs.
I will, yeah.
Yeah, because it gets lost in translation.
So I believe what we will do at this point is have a motion to table Mobilize Optometry until the application is correct and additional questions are answered.
Are you looking for such motion?
I am.
Well, I'll move that we table the trade name Mobilize Optometry until issues surrounding the application have been addressed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Please continue.
Okay, the next one is for Anna Sadler in Mission, Kansas, for Sadler Eye Care for her first choice, Wink Eye Care for the second, and the Eye Zone for her third choice.
Dr. Lozada.
Yes.
And I think we had a similar issue with this particular application. It appears to be one who would qualify for the amnesty the board has offered, if she's even operating, but I did flag that as it came through.
So this is, what is the issue with this particular trade name?
It's the underlying entity. I think it's it's formed as a general LLC.
In that case, can we even vote on this one? I don't believe we can.
Yeah, I'll reach out to the licensee and address the issue.
So regarding the trade name for Dr. Sadler, is there a motion to table until additional questions have been resolved?
I'll make a motion to table discussion of Dr. Sadler until additional corporate entity questions are answered.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. Motion to table carries.
I'm striking out all over the place. The third one is for Vulture Eye Care, and it's also at various nursing homes. He's got eye travel, on-site travel, and mobile eye care. And number 9 is the same guy. He's got his corporation currently in Missouri. He's wanting to bring it over to Kansas and get it incorporated. And he's wanting the Vulture Eye Care PA has, and then do a DBA as eye travel.
Mr. Resner, I believe that this application also has, there's additional information the board would like, such as addresses and certain questions answered. Is that correct?
Right. I don't believe that a location specified or plural locations are specified in the application.
Is there a motion to table the trade name applications of Joshua Butcher and Deambra Butcher until further information is received, including location and other questions?
I also move.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Please continue.
Okay, next one, 4 and 5 are the same. Ryan Kukler, one of them is Family Eye Care of St. Mary's, and the other one is Family Eye Care of Seneca.
Regarding St. Mary's, Kansas and Seneca, Kansas, how big of a community are these? Because there may be a geographic problem with the name based on geography.
St. Mary's is a population of 2627, according to what I just Googled. And Seneca has 1991.
Are there multiple practices in St. Mary and Seneca?
Well, currently he is practicing under his own name in St. Mary's.
Family Eye Care of Wamego, St. Mary's, and Onaga, Ryan Kuekerodpa,
Yeah, that's.
has a website, famileyeyecenter.net. The way that I found that was I Googled optometrists in Seneca, Kansas, and I found the Facebook page of the same name, facebook.com/Seneca Family Eye / got me their Facebook page, and then listed was their website. So they're already advertising.
Yeah, Vision Source.
I don't see Vision Source here at all, but that doesn't, I haven't got that far yet, that's
Right.
all it means.
Yeah, on their mobile site, it has Family Eye Care of St. Mary's - Vision Source. Dr. Lozada, when you had asked if there are any other practices in those locations, there are at least 2 other practices in Seneca, as I'm seeing Dr. McPeak and Dr. Whitaker.
Thank you. So I'm seeing here Family Eye Care of St. Mary's, and I'm online, and there appears to be another practice called St. Mary's Family Eye Care, which is the same words, just a different order.
Jan, do we have someone who has an approval for St. Mary's Family Eye Care?
The only St. Mary's was Ryan Cooker.
I'm seeing one in St. Mary's, Ohio, Dr.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Jan, does Dr. Kuker have any other trade names that he's currently utilizing with approval from the board?
He has Family Eye Care of Bellevue. Family Eye Care of Onega. Family Eye Care of Wamego.
Oh, I know who this is. I remember.
That looks it.
Thank you.
Dr. Sparks, you'll be the one board member who's been part of this board long enough who can confirm what I am remembering, and that is that this practice already had a location with a large geographical name associated with it, like Family Eye Care of, let's just say, Wamego, that had been granted by before the guidelines for trade names was written. And so at some earlier time, the board decided to go ahead and approve the trade name for consistency. Is that correct?
I can't say yes or no to that, Dr. Lozada. I'm sorry. My memory doesn't stretch that far. I'm certain we could find that information out fairly quickly, though.
So my concern regarding the trade names, Family Eye Care St. Mary's, Family Eye Care Seneca, is that I believe it was 2016 that the board wrote some guidelines to help with trade names, and one of the things that was added was to limit the use of a large geographical area. There were already a lot of practices that had been approved by previous boards, but in 2016, the decision was made to come up with that kind of guidance because it was getting quite confusing in some of the suburban communities. So it may not be this particular practice, but I do remember that occurring, where for consistency, the board went ahead and approved a name that did not meet that guideline because the practice had already gone down that road. So that's the only discussion I have regarding Family Eye Care St. Mary's, Family Eye Care Seneca, sorry. It appears that the trade name is currently being used.
I might suggest in that instance that we take an additional look at this.
So it sounds like we're going to table this issue. Is there a motion to table the issue regarding these trade names so that additional information can be obtained?
I also move.
Do we have a second?
Second. I second.
All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Trade name is tabled. Please continue.
I'm striking out all over. Matthew Skyhan wants Skyhan Eye Care LLC in Garnett. He did not give me a street address other than Garnett. He's currently in Iola.
Mr. Esner, I don't believe we can approve a trade name without an address.
They're location specific, that would be correct.
I'll make a
So
motion to table
are we,
the applicant.
but do we table this or do we outright deny, since it's an incomplete application?
I mean, that would be, I think, your discretion, whether you, well, the maker of a motion, whether you want to table versus reject and have him start anew, or table and I suppose it'd be ask him to modify.
Are there concerns this is an LLC instead of a PA?
I did look at that issue, and there is an underlying LLC that appears to meet the optometry law formation requirements. I guess one additional comment would be the LLC's name is different than the proposed trade name of this Skyhan Eye Care LLC. The underlying LLC's name is different, and so I spotted that as something interesting, that the trade name LLC would be different than the underlying entity.
Does he already have board approval for his location? Jan, I'm sorry, you said he had a second location.
He has it. Yep, he has a location in Iola.
And does that one have the approval for Skyhan Eye Care LLC?
His name right. Yeah, Insight Vision Center. No, take that back. Iola Vision Source. In Iola.
Does he have a, there's no address. Do you have an address for him personally in Iowa or Kansas?
You know where he lives?
Not Iowa, Iola.
Iola.
Iola. Oh, thank you.
Iola, which is like 30 miles.
So I think in keeping with consistency, this appears to be something that would also be tabled until we obtain further information and clarification on the LLC. Is that correct, Mr. Esner?
We could certainly do that. I think the baseline issue is the location
Okay.
not being specified.
Excuse me.
I'll move to table the application for trade name status for Skyhan Eye Care LLC until such time as the application is complete.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Okay. Robert Murphy, Todd Zerger, and Brandon Smith for Eye Care Associates of Lindsborg. think this one is complete. Good thing I put it there.
So Lindsborg appears to have a population of 3,700. Doesn't appear that the geographic issue would apply to Lindsborg. Or Lindsborg, I should say. What other cities?
Salina for one.
Yeah, that one would definitely fall under the too large of a geographical area. However, that was likely prior to 2016. Mr. Resner, interestingly, I typed in Eye Care Associates of Salina, and Eye Care Associates of Salina LLC came up as the practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's the underlying entity, and their DBA is Eye Care Associates of Salina. This is an applicant we have been in touch with, and doesn't appear there's any use issue, and they've also, I think, done everything, Jan, correct me if I'm wrong, but everything they need to on a incorporation level.
Correct.
Organization level.
Correct.
Okay, so there's no concerns on your side?
Not that I see, no.
Okay. Is there any further discussion regarding Eye Care Associates of Lindsborg?
So there's no geographic issue with the name?
Not in this case because of the size of Lindsborg. We were concerned, when the guidelines were written, we were concerned with larger communities, particularly suburban communities, metro areas where there was just way too much overlap. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve Eye Care Associates of Lindsborg for Doctors Murphy, Zerger, and Smith.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Okay, next up is Gregory Joyce and Amanda Hirsch for Doctors Joyce and Hirsch LLC in Eureka. And I have done the certificate for them. They have submitted stuff to Secretary of State, so.
Any discussion?
I know it says additional location here. I'll point out, I think that Dr. Joyce and Dr. Hirsch already have a location by the same name in El Dorado.
Correct.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to accept the trade name Doctors Joyce and Hirsch LLC for their additional location in Eureka, Kansas.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
And we've already talked about the next one. So then there's the Arbo Conference. It's coming up June 12th through the 14th in Chicago. If you're interested in going, let me know, because I will register you. You will be responsible for making your own travel transportation to Arbo, making your hotel reservations. The board will reimburse you for it, unless you give me your reservation number and stuff, and I can probably have it put on the board's credit card, so it's prepaid if you want. You will get per diem, and I think I looked this morning, Chicago is $79 per day that you would get. But then on days that Arbo provides lunch, breakfast and lunch, then those are deducted from the per diem amount. Transportation to and from the airport, airplane, everything you will get reimbursed for. So parking, cab fare from the airport to the hotel. So I just need to know who wants to go, and so I can get you registered.
Did you say that we had to register for the hotel?
Yes, you need to make your own reservations. You need to make your own travel reservations. I just register you for the conference.
Okay. Should the meeting be held, I definitely would go, and I would recommend all board members to go, particularly those who are new to the board, so you can have your first experience of a national meeting.
They are offering a virtual, if you wanted to do it that way. Registration is $500 per person, and virtual is $250. So, just a FYI. But they used to give an early bird discount. They're not doing that this year, so just let me know.
So it's Dr. Burcher. You said yes.
Yes,
I said yes. Dr. Durst, Dr. Sparks, you can consider it. And
Well, Dr. Sparks is already going because she's on the Arbo board.
Arbo is picking up her tab, so.
So Dr. Sparks, I will see you there. Definitely would invite Dr. Deanna to join us, Dr. Durst. Consider it, look at your schedules, see if you can join us. You would be amazed what you learn at a national meeting.
Okay, moving on. The renewal update. I thought I had the issue fixed with the formats not coming across correctly, and I've had 3 in the last week that lecture, instead of saying it's live, it's coming over as lecture, which isn't counted into the totals. Like I said, I thought I had it fixed, but apparently not. But we still have like 290 some left to renew this year, so it's going to be busy in the next month or so. And then out on the board member website only, I put the reciprocity application update that includes the questions for the House Bill 2066. So if anybody has any issues with it or sees something wrong, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to post it online and have them start using that one. So some of the other boards, I had a small agency meeting, some of the other boards are not even asking if they are moving to Kansas. They're just assuming everybody is and dealing with them that way. So thought I'd throw that one out there too.
Ms. Murray, it's the reciprocity application that has the additional questions regarding working with an entity. Is that correct?
I do believe that. So
all right.
Tried to incorporate those too.
Yeah. Here's a question for the board. Do we want to include those questions on trade names, or are they already there? If they're not there, I would suggest that we consider adding them. Because in a lot of these trade names, we couldn't move forward. Well, not on a lot of them. On 2 of them, we could not move forward because we had additional questions, and if they're on the application, that will simplify the process.
On the reciprocity application or the
Trade name.
application?
Trade name applications.
Okay, back up. Okay, so what questions would you like me to add to the trade name application?
The same series of questions that we have on the reciprocity regarding working with an entity, copy of the contract, et cetera.
Okay. Okay. So I'll just copy those over.
Yeah, I think it would be a good idea because that would have sped up the process, made it easier for some of these trade name applications today.
Well, and I know Jamie Speth sent her contract agreement in, pretty sure she did, with her application. Yeah, she did send in her operating agreement with the company that she's going to be working for. And it won't let me open it right now, so it's being particular. But it is posted out on the board member only website.
Okay. Anything further?
No, that's it.
Okay. How many members of the public do we have?
That we haven't run off. We just have Todd. Everybody else is left is.
If he has any comments, please let him know. He has an opportunity.
Todd, do you have any comments?
Sure. Just first off, thanks for everything you all are continuing to do. Just wanted to update you on a couple of legislative issues, just so you're aware. We've been working with the Department of Motor Vehicles over the last couple of years related to an issue about provider liability. So the optometrist or ophthalmologist filling out the vision form. We actually, because of some ongoing litigation with that, we did in fact introduce legislation this year, and that bill has been passed that provides some protections for optometrists and ophthalmologists who fill out the vision form. And just for clarification, the form used to ask you to certify that the individual was safe to operate a vehicle. But now it will, we believe, will not have that information. You're not actually being asked to say that whether they can safely operate a vehicle, but rather that they have the necessary visual skills to meet the standards. So just that bill just got signed by the governor last week. And then we're working with the DMV to update that form, but just wanted you to be aware of that. Also, we have a vision screening bill that was updated too that will affect how vision screenings are done in the state of Kansas. Those are done by schools, but optometrists will be, of course, probably helping to educate the schools about how best to do those screenings and what those should look like. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And with that, we also will be having our convention later this month. The intent with this meeting is that it's going to be a hybrid meeting. So we're going to be offering live stream as well as in-person education. And then we're trying to determine going forward what that's going to look like, whether we continue offering the live stream option, depending on what the board decides regarding continuing ed requirements after that. So I think that's about it.
Thank you, Todd. Next meeting is going to be on July 22nd and 23rd. We're meeting at 8:30 in the morning. That is the weekend for the licensing examination. As you know from last year, we'll have our meeting in the morning, break for lunch, have interviews in the afternoon. The written exam will be given on Friday. The practical will be given on Saturday.
Dr. Lozada, I'd just
Yes.
like to say everyone has reservations for both Thursday night and Friday night. So you don't have to drive in that morning of. And I did make a reservation for Dr. Ayer on Friday night because as far as I know, he's going to come in and help Proctor again.
Who's this?
Dr. Ayer, Doug.
Oh,
Ayer.
Doug? Fantastic.
And I just got.
Is it which hotel is it?
The Hyatt Place. And I just confirmed all those reservations last week. So if you would like, I can forward you the info.
That would be great, and
Okay.
I will pull it out of there someday.
Do we want to schedule a interim meeting, because we'll have to have a meeting about the subjects to be discussed in the examination itself. It's a meeting that's done in executive sessions because of the nature of the discussion, but we still ought to schedule it.
I think that's a good idea. So we will want to get 5 questions to Dr. Burcher before then. And that way she can put them together and then send them to us for review. I worked last year with Dr. Atterbury. I thought that the facility was really good to have the examination, so I can contact Dr. Atterbury.
Dr. Atterbury has agreed to let us use his facilities again, and you will work with him to get patients?
Yes.
Okay.
Last year, by the way, we had 5 patients and 2 emergency backup patients. The morning of, we did have a patient cancel, and one of the emergency patients also told us that they couldn't come. So it was the second backup patient who was one of the stations. Yeah. Yeah, so it was good to have 2 additional. And I can do that. I'll come to Topeka, review records, get 5 patients together. I guess I can work with you on that. Yeah, we can work together on that. And I think on the proposed board roles, it's the, is it the new member or is it member at large or secretary who works with you on the written? No, there's a suggestion in there. We haven't voted on it yet. We'll vote on it in June. But no, it doesn't have to be you alone. Ask for help. Probably help Dr. Burcher, since Dr. Atterbury was super helpful. Certainly. Okay. Yeah, and you know exactly what to look for. Okay. Okay, so you and I can talk about that. At this point, meeting is about to be over. Are there any other comments, questions?
Are you going to set a date to talk about the exam?
Oh, that's right. That would help. Let's see. Definitely not a Monday.
Or is this going to be an in-person exam or a meeting, or can we do this via Teams?
I think Teams will be fine.
Okay.
Dr. Burcher, let's see. Today's the 11th. I think the 11th is too quick. You know, and I forgot, the exam is in July, so we could actually, we don't have to have the meeting within a month. We could even have the meeting in 2 months if you like.
You might want to consider not going that far out because
Have a problem.
you may find you have some issues that you have to resolve. If we go, if we look at a month out from today, that would be a Wednesday evening, the 11th.
Right. I think that's too quick.
Are we talking
Well,
about an after hours meeting?
Yes.
again?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So are you going to have your questions to Dr. Birch prior to then, so she can incorporate them and you guys can pick and choose questions?
Yeah, I think that's the goal.
Okay.
If you go 6 weeks, then you are the 25th, which is the Wednesday before Memorial Day.
I like that idea of the 25th. of
Sorry, I
May.
couldn't hear that. I don't know if someone was not with the mic on. What was said?
My apologies, Dr. Deonda.
worries.
This is what happens when I sit back and look at my phone. Looking at the possibility of Wednesday, May 25, which is the Wednesday before Memorial Day.
And so what time will we be talking, in the evening or?
In the evening, yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, I'm good then.
Good, thank you.
Start at like 7, or is that good for everyone, 7?
And as Jan mentioned at the beginning, this would be an executive meeting because the topic of discussion is the examination. So we will start as a normal meeting and then immediately go into executive session for the duration of the meeting.
And there will be one topic other than this.
That will be the only topic.
No.
Well, no, it won't.
The mask thing. 'Cause you
We
said,
have to discuss, we have to.
Yeah, we have to address that. Do we, regarding the application of Dr. Sturdivant, do we want to include that, or do we believe we will address that before then?
Well, we potentially could address it before then. You know, we also have a number of trade names that we need to get through, and
That's correct.
we're working on them. And so I don't think it would happen within the same meeting. So we may be looking at something else.
So why don't we have that meeting to be announced, because it's going to completely depend upon how fast this information is obtained. And regarding the questions for these trade names, is that something that's going to come, that Ms. Murray's going to send out, or legal counsel is going to send out?
So Jan and I have identified a member for a series of applications, I suppose. And so I'll be contacting each of the investigative members with my suggestions on how to proceed.
All right, we'll go down that route then.
and just so you know, I went through Tim's spreadsheet and did assign everybody a trade name or two to investigate. Even Dr. Deanda got a couple, but they were simple ones.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything further? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn our meeting this evening.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you for your patience today.